morning, okay, or evening, whenever you're listening to this. Today, I want to talk about strength and conditioning for equestrians, okay? So, what people may not realize is strength and conditioning is a lot to do with injury prevention as opposed to literally just getting stronger and fitter. The name can be a little bit misleading in a sense. But one thing I want to talk about is the fact that every sport, nigh on every sport, has some element of strength and conditioning in it, even top level equestrians now, whereas we don't seem to think about it being necessary. Now, that could be because the name suggests something else, and obviously, us horse riders are all super strong and super conditioned. For those with who know what conditioning is, I'm messing. But it's like if every other sport does it, why should we be any different? And that's why the reason I want to talk about it, say, because as I said, strength and conditioning isn't just about getting stronger and say more conditioned. It is about injury prevention, and a lot of it is to do with people working on either imbalances or working on different things to improve their weak muscles to make them less likely to get injured, and then in the long run keep being able to train more and play more. And especially if you're professional, injury takes a lot of time out. And one of the examples I wanted to use is rugby, okay? And the reason I'm going to use rugby is because, like horse riding, there's a lot of impact in it, and you may not realize that impacts actually do affect your body alignment. So if you fall off a horse, this also works for fighters too, and as I said, rugby players, impact, right? You can knock your body out of alignment. What then happens after that is, say for instance, you've knocked your neck slightly. The muscle on this side can get tight, this one can get weak, and now suddenly here you have a really tight muscle in the side of your neck, and you don't know why, because what happened? I don't know. You fell off the horse. Okay? And over time, if you do not do something about to re-strengthen this and loosen this out, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and it can develop into a full-blown injury. And that is one of the reasons why strength and conditioning, or making sure we're looking after ourselves, can come in very handy. So same thing happened with the rugby. They impacted a lot of impact. So obviously professional rugby players suffer with a lot of injuries. There's and that's what I'm trying to say, like, we're kind of close, falling off horses. We may not fall off as much as they run into people, but this is something like we need to protect ourselves. So like if we have nice strong shoulders and nice strong hips and a good solid core, this can help. If we fall, we'll have less of an issue. We having more muscle tone and strength, and also with doing kind of this kind of work as well, not impact work, but like resistance work, can help your bone density, which I did a whole podcast on. Actually, if you look at podcast yesterday, it explains it. This is actually very relevant for horse riders too. Less likely to fall, less likely to injure yourself. All of these things come under the umbrella of strength and conditioning. So while you might think, oh yeah, well, I'm lifting the saddle, I'm horse riding, I'm doing all these different things, you are, as I said, going to have imbalances. So one I always talk about is our hips. So we get very strong in here and very weak out here. Now, what we want to do is strengthen here. It gives our hips more stability. More stability means less likely to hurt yourself when you fall, because it's the weak sides that'll go. So we have so many tendons and muscles crossing our hips because our hip does so many different things. Our hip doesn't just show you now. Our hip doesn't just go forward and back. Okay? I'll try and put it a little bit lower. Hip doesn't just go forward and back, right? Our hip goes out. Our hip rotates and goes the other way. So think about all the different muscles and joints and tendons that are involved in doing this. Now, if you've got a strong side here, here's weaker. If you fall or if you do something weird one, what's the likelihood to go? You're probably more likely to injure here because of the muscle imbalance. Now you could tear here, it can lock up, but you're more likely to hit out here. So what do we do to prevent that? Strengthening exercises for there. And again, it doesn't have to be mad crazy ones that we do. It can be very, very simple exercises you can do at home, simple but efficient. As I'm saying, when I'm talking about the rugby players, they will all say, for instance, professional rugby players have an individualised program. They have all separate warm-ups. Why? Because one guy is going to have different issues to the other guy. Forwards and backs, they're going to have different issues. You know, the forwards are going to need different because they're in the scrum and stuff like that, and the backs run more, so they're going to need different warm-ups. So they will all have their own individual warm-up for strength and conditioning. They will have their own individual programs for what they are training to make sure that all of their specific needs are catered for. Shoulders, exact same thing, okay? Your shoulder, what's your shoulder do? Up, down, back, goes back. It goes up like this, it goes down. It rotates. See that? This is probably one of the hardest things that don't get enough coverage, that they don't do enough. So what's going to happen? The rotator cuff muscles are going to get injured or get weak and more likely injured. Who here has had a rotator cuff injury? I have. That is actually 4 muscles, not 1. So what we want to do is work on keeping them healthy as well. And again, when you come down off a horse, what are you likely to go onto? Your shoulder. The more these are strong, the less likely you're going to do a rotator cuff injury. Again, you've got the issue of dislocated shoulders. Very simple when you come down off a horse. So what we're trying to do here again is strengthen all those muscles in that area to make sure we have a well protected shoulder. It is literally, that is the whole point of strength and conditioning. It is not about getting as strong as you can. Obviously, that can help too. But this is about protection of your body. The stronger your muscles are around joints, the more supported your tendons are, the more supported your joints are. Less likely to do injury. And especially, as I said, in a thing like horse riding where we have face impacts, we are doing a lot of movement. I know it seems like a lot of similar planes of movement. We're not going sideways unless your horse goes sideways and you go the other way. But all these different things, we need to take care of these weaker areas, because as strong as your legs might be, I guarantee you've got weak outer hips. As strong as your back might be, by the way, I'm considering this your whole back here. How's our rotation in our shoulders? That's the thing that goes. You're pulling back like this all the time, you might feel your muscles down here. They need to get strong. We want to protect our joints as much as we can, and that is why I'm a really big proponent of gym exercise for horse riders. It's not a coincidence that every other sport is doing it. It's not a coincidence that the high level athletes are doing it now. So the elite level athletes are all doing it. I've heard this from people who work with elite level athletes, who know the elite level athletes. They're doing it. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing it. Just because they might ride 2 or 3 times a week more than us doesn't mean we don't need it too. And the longer you leave these, the worse they get. The longer you leave a mobility issue, the tighter it's going to get. And we don't want that. Obviously we don't want that. So that's why I wanted to come on and talk about it today, and say, like, it's not just about getting faster, quicker, stronger. It's about injury prevention, long-term pain management. If you've been struggling with something for a long time and you're waiting for it to go away, it's not going to. If it's not gone away within, I'd say, 2 weeks, you need to start doing some form of rehab program. Even myself, I've gone to physio several times to sort out issues, get rehab programs, and I know if it's not going away over long term, there's only so long you can ignore it. You have to do something about it. So if this sounds like you, if this is something that's happening to you, if you feel like you are struggling with injury the whole time that you can't get rid of, and when I say an injury, an injury doesn't mean that you can't, like, I'm not talking about a muscle tear or a dislocated hip or a dislocated shoulder or a broken bone. an injury could be a long-term thing that you can't lift your arm over your head. You can't rotate your arm. A range of movement issue still can be an injury. If it's long-term, it's a hint that you need to do something about it. Same thing, if you've got really tight hamstrings that you can't get rid of, or if you've constant pain, grindiness in your hips, that's an indication that something needs to be done as well. So this is what I'm trying to talk about. This is why I do programs for equestrians. My programs are built around fixing those imbalances, helping you stay pain free, and meaning that, like, instead of taking painkillers, you're actually just be able to do your rehab exercises and you can jump on the horse with no issue. That's what I do. This is what I mean by strength and conditioning. If this is something that you feel like you could do and you could benefit from, please do drop me a DM. Go onto my website, it's www.chrissyhawkins.com, and fill out the little contact form. I'm here to help you. This is what I do. I have horse riding nearly all my life, PT for 5 years. It's my specialisation. So if it is something that you are interested in, stop waiting around. It's not going to get better on its own. If it's been a couple of months, it's not getting better on its own. So if it's something I can help you with, drop me a DM, and thank you for joining me and watching this video.